to emerging markets and frontier economies.
Sincerely apologize for that hitch there. But let's go over now to the Bank of Ghana, where the central bank governor is delivering a presentation at the Monetary Policy Committee meeting, where the new policy rate will be announced shortly.
1.2% in 2018. The bank's composite index of economic activity also reflected strong uptick in economic activity. The updated CIEA recorded a growth of 3.2% year-on-year in May, compared with a 2.2% growth during the same period last year. Consumer confidence also picked up significantly, reflecting optimism about current and future economic conditions, while business sentiment softened somewhat. Headline inflation has trended downward since April 2019, after 3 consecutive price increases on the back of exchange rate pass-through effects. From 9.5% in April, inflation declined to 9.4% in May, and further to 9.1% in June. Underlying inflation also trended downwards, as the bank's main measure of core inflation, that is, inflation excluding fuel and utility prices, eased in June 2019. The country's 3 main export commodities, oil, gold, and cocoa, traded mixed in June 2019. Crude oil prices rebounded during the first 5 months as production cuts coupled with renewed geopolitical tensions lifted prices. However, prices have since moderated to an average of $63.1 per barrel in June, down from the average of $71 per barrel. On the other hand, gold prices made significant gains as the US-China trade tensions heightened. Gold prices rallied to a 6-year high average of $1,359.7 per fine ounce in June 2019. Prices of cocoa bounced back in June, driven by supply constraints. The recent move by Côte d'Ivoire and Ghana to set a floor price for cocoa also supported the price rally. Cocoa prices averaged $2,467.1 per ton in June. Consequently, export receipts for the first half of the year remained robust at nearly $8 billion, and together with a relatively lower import bill, positively impacted on the trade account. Provisional trade balance for the first half of 2019 recorded a surplus of $1.9 billion, compared to a surplus of $1.3 billion in the first half of 2018. The trade surplus was partly offset by net outflows in the services and income accounts, leading to a marginal current account surplus of $39 million in the first half of 2019, compared to a deficit of $409 million in the same period last year. The current account surplus, though marginal, is the first in recent history. This surplus, together with significant inflows to the capital and financial account, yielded an overall balance of payment surplus of $1.3 billion over the period, compared with a deficit of $372 million last year. Gross international reserves stood at $8.6 billion, equivalent to 4.3 months of import cover at the end of June 2019, up from $7 billion US at the end of December 2018. The domestic currency market has remained relatively calm. The CD cumulatively depreciated by 8.2% in the year to July 2019, compared with 5.8% for the corresponding period of 2018. Against the British pound and euro, the Ghana CD cumulatively depreciated by 5.9% and 6.5% respectively, compared with 2.5% and 2.9% depreciation respectively over the same period in 2018. In trade-weighted terms, the real effective exchange rate continued to be broadly aligned with the underlying fundamentals. Provisional data for the first 5 months of 2019 showed an overall budget deficit on cash basis of 3% of GDP against the target of 2.4% of GDP. This excludes some energy-related payments of about 0.7% of GDP. The higher than projected fiscal deficit outturn was primarily driven by lower than expected revenues against an increased pace of spending. The revenue shortfalls were mainly from international trade taxes. Over the review period, total revenue and grants amounted to $18.5 billion, compared to a program target of $21.5 billion, indicating an annual growth of 7.6%. Total expenditures, however, reached $28.6 billion, marginally below the target of $29.7 billion, and representing 25.2% annual growth. In line with the above developments, the stock of public debt rose to 58.1% of GDP at the end of May 2019, compared with 51% of GDP at the end of May 2018. Of the total debt stock, domestic debt was estimated at 94.6 billion Ghana cedis. That is 27.5% of GDP, of which 11 billion Ghana cedis, or 3.2% of GDP, represented bonds issued to support the financial sector cleanup, while external debt was 105.4 billion Ghana cedis, or 30.6% of GDP. The key monetary aggregates broadly reflected some growth in line with continued expansion of economic activity. Annual growth in broad money supply was 22.3% in June 2019, compared with 13% in the same period last year. The growth in total liquidity was supported by increases in both net domestic assets and net foreign assets of the banking system. The pace of growth in reserve money, however, slowed to 8.8% on a year-on-year basis in June 2019, compared with 13.9% growth in the same period a year ago. Private sector credit growth continued to strengthen, supported largely by the well-capitalized banking sector.
And that was the Governor of the Central Bank, Dr. Ernest Addison, briefing the press on the outlook of the economy before announcing the new policy rate. We'll certainly update you on that policy rate as and when it comes up. But for now, every Ghanaian in the country now owes 6,896 cedis. This was after the country's debt stock reached 200 billion cedis as of the end of May this year. George Rafi has more on the debt numbers and other developments in the economy.
The 6,896 Ghana cedis debt for every Ghanaian will be realized if the debt is shared among a population size of 29 million. Some economists have argued that this could be paid in the form of taxes or sacrifice some projects to help finance these debts. The data revealed that the debt stock has increased by a little over 2 billion Ghana cedis since the last time that the debt numbers were released by the Bank of Ghana. The 200 billion Ghana cedis debt accounts for about 58% of the total value of the economy as at the end of May this year. More than half the debts were borrowed from outside the country, with the remaining from domestic sources. Development in the banking sector showed that confidence was indeed picking up, as all the indicators like deposits, loans and total assets were improving. There was also some marginal improvement in the loans that the banks fear would go bad. The cedi from January to June this year depreciated by 8.23% and in July compared to the 5.93% for the same period last year. Gross international reserve as of June was $8.5 billion, representing 4.3 months of import cover. Total earnings from export ending June was $7.9 billion compared to $7.8 billion in the same period for last year. Earnings from gold was the highest. This resulted in a trade balance of $1.9 billion.
This is live on the marketplace. Now, there are some developments on the biggest fish market in Accra, the Adabraka Fish Market, which is noted for fish exports. Let's join Karen Dodu, my colleague, for some updates. Karen, take it up. Hello, Karen.
Hello, Emmanuel. Hello. Hello, Emmanuel.
Yes, Karen, I just want you to update us on the developments so far on the Adabraka Fish Market.
The noise here is not making me hear you very well, Emmanuel, but today we decided to do something different on the marketplace. We decided to visit one of the most popular fish markets here in Accra, and that's the Adabraka Fish Market. It's very popular for fish export. That's dried fish, salted fish, the kobe, the kako, and the like. So I have one of the authorities here. She's going to tell me more about the market and what makes this fish market very unique. Hello, ma'am.
Hello.
Adabraka Fish Market. Yate monkasa na de ankasa na market way agidin sa.
Yo, yen nam na yeto wa ha no. Ni price no e wo form pa ayefo. Ye neatness wa ha so no so ka ho na yenya din sa.
E number nsa na momoton wa ha.
Yeto akwa bi adwin apata kobi bebre blolovi ka ho enam bebre the export so.
I wouldn't want to give so much details, but then she's mentioned several fishes they have here, and she's talked about the neatness of this market being one reason why you have people who come and buy and export the fish to other countries. So this is Adabraka Fish Market. We promise to bring you more from this market, exciting stories from here, but we wouldn't want to spoil the fun. So for now, this is what we have for you here from the Adabraka Fish Market in Accra.
Thank you very much, Karen Dodu, for that update. Karen Dodu, which is live from the Adabraka Fish Market and giving us updates of some developments on the market. Now, Power Distribution Service, PDS, says it will be partnering the Attorney General's Department to set up a utility court in the Ashanti region to prosecute power thefts and other related offences. Acting Ashanti Regional Director David Asamoah says this will compel defaulting consumers to promptly pay their bills whilst checking illegal connections. Prince Appiah was at the PDS media encounter in Kumasi and now reports.
The power distribution company PDS reviews power theft recoveries in both the first and second quarter of 2019 totaled 8,356,140 Ghana cedis. After visiting over 50,000 customers, it has apprehended over 5,000 of them who have stolen power between the first and second quarter. Acting Director for PDS Ashanti, Engineer David Asamoah, explains the situation is impacting its operations.
No, the impact of that is that, in fact, put a lot of stress on the system. For example, we have planned that we know 100 people are on this transformer, and we end up getting, let's say, 150 on the same transformer illegally. So it makes it very difficult for us to control and improve even the supply that we give, because we plan for 100, and we know the 100 will take us, let's say, a year. But within 1 month, the transformer is already overloaded, and we need to get another transformer to relieve it. Otherwise, the transformer burns and we lose huge sums of money.
Some of the other challenges the company faces include unauthorized meter installations, third-party damages to PDS network, planting of trees under PDS network, and unauthorized meter installations. To address the challenge, Engineer Asamoah says setting up a utility court will help address the menace.
We are arranging with the AG department to set up a utility court where we can pursue our cases for people who are stealing, those who are not paying. We can pursue that. In fact, it exists already in Accra, and we want to replicate it in Ashanti.
In terms of the prosecution units, how many people they've arrested who are violating some of these issues using unauthorized meters and stealing power?
For the first quarter, it was about 3,000. The second quarter, 2,700. So putting first and second quarter alone together, we are ranging in the range of about 6,000 only this year.
And how much is that costing?
The figure is about 8.4 million.
These revelations were made during a PDS media encounter which attracted more than 20 journalists in Kumasi. Prince Apia reporting.
Let's get back to our earlier story, where a lot of pressure is being mounted on Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta to use the mid-year review and supplementary budget to deal with revenue mobilization challenges. These concerns are coming ahead of the mid-year review, which will now be presented to Parliament on Monday, July 29. George Rafe has more.
We understand that the presentation is now happening on Monday due to some internal challenges with Parliament, which have made it difficult for the Finance Minister to present the mid-year review on the initial July 24 date. Fiscal data from the Finance Ministry showed that government is still struggling to meet its projected revenue target for the first half of this year, a development that is impacting negatively on its expenditure. Various economists, think tanks, and the country's development partners have highlighted the need to explore some fresh revenue measures to help deal with the budget deficit. Dr. Tunamama is the IMF country representative, and he's been sharing some views on this development and how to address this problem.
Domestic revenue mobilization was still an important issue. So to the extent that the mid-year budget review can address part of it, because it'll take time to do, this will be an important. It's more growth friendly. It's growth friendly to do an adjustment through by collecting more revenues than cutting expenditure. That's a fact. I think if we want to maintain sustainable growth while also creating the fiscal space for important social programs, it's better to do it through revenue rather than cutting expenditure.
Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta has told Joy Business that he would use the presentation to review some of the macroeconomic targets outlined in the 2019 budget and also review some tax policy measures like the luxury tax on vehicles.
All right, so like I said earlier, the presentation of the mid-year budget review and the supplementary budget presentation has now been postponed to Monday, 29th of July. My man, Joseph Akable, was in Parliament. He gives us reasons as to why the postponement came up. Joseph.
Hello.
Yes, so can you give us reasons why the date was postponed?
And so the first reason that was given by the Deputy Majority Leader has to do with the fact that there are lots of the MPs on the minority side who are currently engaged in the process of filing their nomination in their various constituencies. And so that will mean that many of them may not be available if the House is to hold that particular budget review on Monday. And the other issue too relates to a concern that was raised by Minority Leader Haruna Idrisu, and has to do with if it's going to take place on the 29th and the possibility that there could be some tax measures that will be announced, which will mean that Parliament will have to do some extra work in terms of referring it to the Finance Committee. That is, if a tax is removed or some tax will be introduced, it means that they will have to refer it to the Finance Committee and the committee will have to refer it back against the backdrop that Parliament will be rising just around the end of July as well. So that concern was also raised by the Minority Leader, but the Majority Leader assured that they've engaged the Finance Ministry, and either ways, if there have to be some tax measures, they can deal with it under a certificate of urgency to have it passed immediately. And so the fear of the Minority Leader is not something that is legitimate in that regard, and so that issue was also addressed. So for now, the latest is that the media review will take place on the 29th of January. The debate will start a day after, and we're supposed to conclude a day after.
All right, many thanks for that update. Joseph Akapley, reaching us live from Parliament. Now, the insurance industry's contribution to GDP could overtake that of the banking sector as the leading financial services sector. Editor-in-Chief of Integrity magazine, Reverend Kennedy Okusun, says this has become possible if insurance companies put the right strategies in place, such as engaging the public on a regular basis. He spoke at a press briefing ahead of the insurance business breakfast meeting to be organized in Accra. Bismarck also has more.
According to the editor-in-chief of Integrity magazine, Reverend Kennedy Okusun, the insurance sector's contribution to GDP outweighs that of the banks in many advanced countries, a status he believes the local insurance sector could attain in the coming year. He says a well-developed insurance industry will improve the stability of the financial markets and protect individuals and businesses from losses through natural disasters or accidents.
Our conviction at Integrity magazine is that the insurance industry could become a bigger portfolio, a bigger industry, a larger contributor to the macroeconomic dynamics of this country than even the banking industry. And you can quote me. That's our understanding. That if the insurance industry is given the right support, if the insurance industry puts together the requisite strategies, you could have in the foreseeable future that the insurance industry will overtake the banking industry.
And here we draw the curtains down on the marketplace today. My name is Emmanuel Boaji. For more business news, log on to myjoyonline.com/business. Have a good afternoon.
2 years ago, but not in